Good morning, NFC East fans. Jeff Kerr here. Tone DeShields here. We got smiles on our faces. I'll tell you why I got a smile on my face, Tone. And I want Eagles fans to just kind of sit here for a minute. I want you all to do me a favor. Go enjoy your Christmas Eve. I'm dead serious. Go spend it with your loved ones, watching a football game, stress-free, because that December 24th game, the one that has been circled on the calendar for weeks and months on end, especially to that team in Texas, is meaningless. Does not mean jack. Because the Philadelphia Eagles have been doing what they've been doing all year, winning football games. They are 13-1, the best start in franchise history. They are literally about to wrap up the NFC East and home field advantage in the playoffs. All they have to do is win one of the final three games because the Dallas Cowboys decided, in typical Dallas Cowboys fashion, to not hold up their end of the bargain and have some fun on Christmas Eve. They decided, you know what? We're better off being closer to the New York Giants in the NFC East standings than they are the Philadelphia Eagles. They are down. They are 3 back with 3 to play. Go enjoy your Christmas Eve. Have some eggnog with your families, Tone DeShields. They are done in the NFC East race.
You know what's so funny? I'm not even the eggnog guy, Jeff, believe it or not. Don't kill me, but I'm not even the eggnog guy.
You got to try it.
I will try it. My wife has been trying to get me to try it for quite some time, and I've given her a hard way to go. But you bring up a lot of good points. Is that game meaningless between the Eagles and the Cowboys on Christmas Eve? Maybe, right? From a standing standpoint, 9 times out of 10 is meaningless. But I got a strong feeling, and we're going to talk about this as the show progresses. I'm pretty sure the Eagles are going to want to enter that game with a certain level of attention to detail. But I digress. Let me stay on track with what I want to say. The Dallas Cowboys are who we think they are. And they are a team that for some reason always happens to put their foot in their own mouths. You see, this is why it's important for you to curve your tongue when the time is necessary. This is why it's important to never make guarantees. And I'm not saying the Dallas Cowboys enter that game guaranteeing anything, but when you tend to look ahead past your opponent, the way they have this week or this past week, the way they looked ahead, the way they were so focused on what the Philadelphia Eagles were doing, just instead of focusing exactly on what was in front of them, Jeff, that is how you lose football games. The NFL is a league that you don't want to look too far ahead. You want to stay in the moment. The NFL is not a place where you make guarantees because there are too many moving parts in this game that can occur outside of your control. Let's throw Micah Parsons some bail. The defense went into overtime and got the Jacksonville Jaguars offense off the field. They gave their offense a shot. So I'm going to throw Micah Parsons some bail. He did get a sack in the game, 1 sack. You know, anybody can get one.
They also gave up 500 yards.
But they also gave up 500 yards, 4 touchdowns to Trevor Lawrence. And on top of that, again, anybody can get 1 sack. But when you got guys that can get 2, like a Josh Sweat, like a Hassan Reddick, like a Javon Hargrave, then we're talking about a different category. But I digress once again.
I'm going to flip this over for a second. I didn't even think of this till now. But since Jalen Hurts is a system quarterback, how about we put Micah Parsons in the Eagles defense? And how good would he be, since he likes to talk about how good players are?
Man, if he played for the Philadelphia Eagles, I'll tell you this right now, he would definitely be a game wrecker. I think he's one of those players.
I'll give you one. I think he'd have 20 sacks.
Man, you put him next to Josh Sweat, you put him next to Fletcher Cox or Javon Hargrave, he better have 20 sacks. But, you know, again, this is why you don't look too far ahead, Jeff. Because sooner or later, someone's going to punch you in the mouth for not paying attention to them. And that's what happened. Now, look, the Jacksonville Jaguars were down 17 points. It was exciting. I thought they were down and out, but they continued to claw back. And this is what happens when a Cowboy doesn't pay attention to the Jaguars. This is what happens, Jeff.
I'll tell you another thing, Tone. That Jacksonville Jaguars team may win the AFC South. They are right in the thick of it right now. They are one game behind Tennessee. Tennessee is in a free fall. You can thank the Eagles for starting that free fall, but Tennessee is in a free fall right now. And Jacksonville is one game out. Here's an interesting stat about the Jacksonville Jaguars, Tone. When they were down 17 points in franchise history going into this year, they were 1-191 all time. This year, down 17 points, they are 2-2 because they have a franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. And I said to anybody that was willing to listen all week, I would not bet on Dallas Jacksonville. I would not make a pick on Dallas Jacksonville because I just was not sure what Jacksonville would do Sunday. I thought they'd play Dallas hard, but they could play them hard and lose by 17. And they were doing that. But Micah Parsons and the Cowboys, the leader of the Cowboys defense, played their hand. And this is what I mean. They overlooked Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars because they were getting ready for Christmas Eve. The leader of the Cowboys defense basically told me, Jeff Kerr, you overlooked the opponent in front of you. So you blew a 17-point lead, and the Jacksonville Jaguars hung a 40-burger on your defense. I know it wasn't all against the defense. Dak Prescott had a lot to do with that. Oh, by the way, the quarterback everybody says is good has 10 interceptions since week 7. That is the most in the NFL. He has the highest interception percentage in the NFL this season at 3.9%. I am going to give Dallas Cowboys fans a real hurting right now. Dak Prescott is not good this year. He is not a good quarterback. The Cowboys almost would be better off with Cooper Rush. Why? Because at least he doesn't turn the football over. All Dak Prescott does is turn the football over. He is costing your football team. And I will be honest, Tone. One and done. One and done. They look like a one-and-done team in this postseason. And keep in mind, they're probably going to be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or whoever wins the NFC South. They are looking like a one-and-done team right now.
If they get the wrong matchup, it's over for them. It's over if they get the wrong matchup. They better hope they run into a Seattle if they get in, or they better hope they run into a New York Giants or a Commanders team. Because, look, like you said, you laid it out perfectly. They have put themselves in such a predicament that the NFC East is all but lost. They're definitely not getting a number 1 seed. So now it's so funny they were actually able to clinch a playoff spot despite the loss. But we knew but we knew they were going to get in. That's not even the topic at hand, right? Like you mentioned, Dak Prescott is a quarterback right now that can't protect the football. In the most crucial of moments at that. That's dangerous. That's something that you can't necessarily bet on. You made a great point. Stay away from all the betting markets when it comes to this Dallas Jaguars game because it was unpredictable. I told them, I said this all week last week. Jacksonville was a team that's getting hot at the right time. And you can make an argument the Philadelphia Eagles played them at the right time. The same thing goes for the Detroit Lions, a team that's getting hot. The Philadelphia Eagles got their work done early. It seems like the Philadelphia Eagles were able to take advantage of these teams while they were still trying to figure it out, whereas the Dallas Cowboys are going up against these teams while they're in their swing, while they're in their hot streak, and that's a bad sign for them. And they're showing so many flaws. They're leaky, and on top of that, man, even though the Philadelphia Eagles had an ugly win yesterday, they got it done, and they didn't allow the external forces to really influence how that game turned out.
That game was really weird for me, Tone, because it was cold. If you saw anything John McMullen said yesterday, you knew how cold it was. And Jalen Hurts, it took him a while to get going, yet he still was the first player in NFL history to throw for 300 yards, rush for 50 yards, and run for 3 touchdowns in the game.
Yeah, he's a unique quarterback. He just does things that's out of the ordinary.
This whole team, yesterday's game felt so weird. I never felt like the game was in danger. Even when the Eagles were down 6-3, I'm like, okay, they're not going to get held to 3 points. They're just not. This is a really good football team. There are going to be guys that are going to make plays. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith were the two that made plays for that offense yesterday. A.J. Brown, career high in receiving yards. Shout out to A.J. Brown. Most yards by a player in his first season in Eagles franchise history. He beat T.O. by 1 in 14 games. So for people who wanted to move the goalposts and said, well, T.O. only played 14 games. I'm like, well, so did A.J. Brown. They still count as seasons. T.O. got hurt. It's understandable. Shout out to A.J. Brown for that. But he had 4 catches for 98 yards in the fourth quarter alone. A.J. Brown was a one-man wrecking crew yesterday, and give credit to Jalen Hurts by going to his boy and letting him take over the football game. Because once A.J. Brown had that 68-yard catch, by the way, dime from Jalen Hurts, beautiful catch by A.J. Brown, the Eagles were going to win that game. The Eagles were not going to turn the football over and fumble in the red zone. Or Jalen Hurts wasn't going to throw his third pick of the day. It wasn't going to happen. The Eagles took care of business yesterday. And I'll tell you what, I'll give Darius Slay some credit too. I know he gets credited for giving up that touchdown. I don't know if that was his guy or not, but Darius Slay did not allow a completion outside of a breakdown in coverage, which they're giving him credit for.
Yeah, that situation was interesting because you can tell they were really trying to key on Justin Fields breaking. But again, a guy like that breaking the pocket, you have to account for him being able to throw it over the top. You have to account for guys leaking out and playing backyard football. So that's exactly what that play was. And look, it was what it was. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. But that game for me, I'll be honest with you, Jeff, it was creeping dangerously close to looking like that New York Giants game last season. 2 interceptions in the first half for Jalen Hurts. Not a good look. But what I respect about him the most, he kept shooting. He was in his Kobe bag. No matter how many shots he missed, he kept shooting. And what makes it that much more fascinating is you saw a guy who remained poised. He didn't panic. Once he saw the mistakes he made, he began to clean it up. He began going to guys that he trusted. He began leaning on his talent, leaning on his big-time wide receivers. Let's not let it go unnoticed. Devontae Smith, over 100 yards in the first half. Big game from him as well. And he's only 99 yards from eclipsing 1,000 yards. The Philadelphia Eagles will have 2 1,000-yard receivers, a 1,000-yard running back, and Miles Sanders that I want to talk about with you as well because it's criminal to have him go an entire quarter and a half without a touch.
I got a whole – I'll tell you what, we would need another hour Good Morning NFC East to get on Shane Steichen.
I don't know what his game plan was from the beginning to the bitter end. I felt like the players were playing against a bad game plan. Tell me how you feel about that.
I hated the game plan. I hated everything about that. From the start, I thought they were too pass happy. I thought it was absolutely criminal. Miles Sanders didn't get the ball the whole first quarter. I did not like the run designs. I did not like trying to get the quarterback killed on the run designs. The only plays that seemed to work the entire day were when Jalen Hurts decided, you know what, I'm going to A.J. Brown, or the slant to A.J. Brown, which works all the time. Like, even on the 4th down play that they didn't convert, I had no problem with the play call itself. I just did not like the lack of creativity because there really wasn't another option. And by the way, I think A.J. Brown might have been held on that play. There might have been a little bit of a play where
in his press conference, he made it clear that the DBs, the corner, was making it a point not to allow him to get inside leverage. So he didn't have that slant all day. There were times where it was a little tougher, and that's why he opted to go towards the boundary, outside leverage, and he was pretty much wide open. Well, I don't want to say wide open, but no, 1K always open. Shoot, 1K always open. He had outside leverage for most of that game, and most of his connections came on the goal ball. So if that adds context to what you're saying, you're right. That I don't have no problem with the play call itself, but it just seemed like the corners were being a bit more physical in terms of keeping AJ from going inside.
This was interesting, right? So after the game, I usually get into a group text with my friends, not long, and I actually have one of my friends ask me this. Don't you think sometimes they try to save Miles Sanders? And I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, look at the carries he got. Like, don't you think it's more important they need him to get 20, 25 next week? And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know why he couldn't get 15 to 20 this week against a bad run defense. I just don't understand, like, they were really happy with Kenny Gainwell on 3rd down this week. I know Kenny Gainwell's the 3rd down back, but they seemed a little too happy with him. I just didn't like, again, I still have to rewatch the game because tons of stuff going on around the NFL yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw the wild and crazy week that was week 15 from Saturday on. But, man, I don't know. That game could have gotten out of hand. It didn't because the Bears are a bad football team. The Bears were not going to beat this team. They just were. Justin Fields had nothing going through the air. Good football player. But again, he's a guy that you could say, okay, if you put him in the Eagles offense, how good would he be? I don't think he'd be Jalen Hurts level because he's not evolved as a passer. But, man, the dynamics are there, Tone. And I got to give Jonathan Gannon, that Eagles defense, some credit. They sacked him 6 times. They pretty much, outside of a big run play that Hassan Reddick had him, they pretty much contained Justin Fields the whole day. And I kind of want to add this on before I let you go here, Tone. They are still the only team with 50 sacks on the year, and they got 55.
It's funny because the Cowboys were leading the league in sacks for quite some time. And then they got cold, and the Philadelphia Eagles got hot. Like you said, Hassan Reddick had that sack on Justin Fields, but Justin Fields just did Justin Fields things. I got to give credit where credit is due. That kid is dynamic, and if he can figure it out in the air, he's going to be dangerous. But, man, Jonathan Gannon, I got to give him credit. The plays he drew up in particular, the designs he drew up on the defensive line with the stunts, with Josh Sweat and Javon Hargrave, and then Hassan Reddick and Fletcher Cox. Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat, they are on fire right now. These guys, it's at the point now where these guys are literally racing to the quarterback. I haven't seen Josh Sweat look this explosive. Hassan Reddick looks like he's playing free. He's dropping back in coverage significantly less. And Jonathan Gannon's allowing his guys to hunt. Javon Hargrave going crazy right now. Javon Hargrave, 10 sacks on the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Hassan Reddick's got 12.
Hassan Reddick got 12. He's going to break. He's going to break his career high. Josh Sweat has already surpassed his career high. Javon Hargrave has a career high. Everyone's having career years so far with this Philadelphia Eagles team. A.J. Brown, Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Javon Hargrave, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith,
Miles Sanders,
James Bradbury,
Darius Slay, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Everybody on this team, Tone. And, it is funny how everybody criticized Jonathan Gannon early in the season. And I'm not ripping people for it because they had their fair points. But when you look at the whole body of work and you look at what they're doing here, they are on pace to be the first team ever to have 4 players with 10 sacks in a season. That is something that gets you a head coaching job in this league. When you reinvent the wheel. And Jonathan Gannon is definitely doing that. Does he have the talent? Yes. But that's still really hard to do. I also shout out Howie Roseman. I have to write 5 all-season moves that paid off around the NFL this season. I'm picking 3. A.J. Brown, James Bradbury, and Hassan Reddick. He knocked it out of the park with those 3. Those 3 are not going to be just good players in this system. They're Pro Bowlers. You can make the case they're all pros, Tone DeShields. That this has been an incredible turnaround for a defense that was pretty good last year and didn't have the players. This is an elite defense. This defense is on par with the San Francisco 49ers, in my honest opinion.
Ooh, man. Speaking of elite defenses, we got to bring up an elite talent in Mike Gill from 97.3 to Sports Bash in South Jersey, holding it down for ESPN. And I'm really curious to see his insight, to hear his perspective on this Philadelphia Eagles game against the Bears. I'm also really interested to hear his perspective on the NFC East and how it's panning out, the NFC playoff picture, and how those Dallas Cowboys somehow, some way managed to fumble the bag on the road in Jacksonville. But as always, you guys, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys continue to stay engaged in the live chat. And most importantly, make sure you guys are subscribed to JAKIB Sports. This is Good Morning NFC East. This is my guy, Jeff Kerr. I'm your main man, Tone DeShields II. Next up, we have Mike Gill. Keep it locked, you guys. You don't want to miss this.